Hey, AfterBuzzers! It is Harlot season, and between Lydia, Margaret, and now Emily, each of these brothels are digging in, and I'm digging in too. Guys, stay tuned. We have reviews, reactions, and a little bit of Harlot history.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hey.
This is like the perfect song for this. I don't know why, but it really is.
Yeah,
it's because like Charlotte, do you love me? Lucy, do you love me? Margaret, do you love me?
Do you
All
love
of them.
me? It definitely applies.
It definitely applies. Guys, I am Linda Antwi. This is the Harlot After Show, and my beautiful co-host.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Mariel Turner.
I mean, what did you think overall? Episodes 3 and 4 we're covering to catch us up.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think?
I think overall I found the episodes, they were really interesting, really entertaining. I think they're a little bit more exciting for me than the first 2 episodes, which is interesting because you think the premiere would be the one to like really grab you. But I think for me, episodes 3 and 4 just had a lot more action and like learning more of the dynamics and the characters. So I loved it.
Yeah, I think that they were laying the foundation. And in 3 and 4, there was a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the dynamics between love, the characters. For me, the brother and sister, the Fitz, they really stood out to me.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their dynamic is, but they have me really fascinated. Really, really fascinated. But, I mean, I don't know.
There's so much, right?
There's so much. So let's just start. Let's start with Lydia.
Okay.
So 1 and 2, she was like on her downfall. And then in 3 and 4, we see her kind of replanting and reestablishing herself.
Right.
And really digging in and getting the right connections. You know? So what I thought was interesting, we got to learn about Mrs. May, which we found it was a special friend of her father's. And because her brothel or house is closed, she's renting May's house. What did you think about that?
I thought that was really interesting, just learning, another character from Lydia's background and kind of seeing that no matter who the person is, Lydia has these strained relationships with people because it didn't really seem like that was her friend, but not necessarily her enemy. I don't know. The dynamic was kind of interesting.
It was interesting in the beginning, but do you remember when May goes and talks to Charlotte and basically threatens her? Like, if you hurt Lydia, I'll hurt you.
I'll hurt you.
So I was like, I think they have like a frenemy relationship, but I think she's also very protective of Lydia.
Yeah, it did seem to be that way. And then I also caught in May and Lydia's conversation where Lydia mentioned that she'd been pleasing her father since she was an infant. And I wasn't exactly sure what she meant by that.
Yeah.
If it was like sexual abuse or pleasing him in some other way. But it kind of just made me notice, like, maybe this is why Lydia kind of is the way she is.
Which is what she said.
Right.
That's how I got my start.
Yeah.
Right? So we don't really know, but I think that they're starting to lay that foundation down. I did want to start with what we do, guys. We have quotes of the show. And so I'm going to throw out a few quotes as we go along, and then we're going to decide what the quote of the show was. So one of the quotes that I thought was interesting was, "Debts irritate friendships like fleas in a wig." And Mrs. May said that. So keep that in the back of your mind as we move forward. What did you think about just having to pay to basically rent out the house?
I don't know. I think it makes sense kind of for the characters and with the profession that they're in. It comes down to money. That's a big part of it. So I don't know. It made sense to me, I think. I didn't really think too much that it was out of character for anyone.
What I thought was interesting was the fact that Mrs. May said, "Hey, you never came to me when you were in prison." And she's like, "Well, obviously you wouldn't have helped me, but then you're helping me now kind of by letting me run my business through your house, but then I still have to pay you."
Right.
So it's kind of like, yeah, you're my friend, I want to help you, but not really.
Yeah, like like their dynamic is just so interesting because but it's also like they work in this profession, so it kind of makes sense that their mindset is like, hey, yeah, sure, I'll help you out, but not for free.
Right.
You need to pay me for it.
Right.
So I have so many thoughts, like so many questions. How is this all going to tie in together?
Right.
Like, is this ultimately going to help Lydia or hurt her? And that's kind of what I was
Well,
wondering.
what we're starting to see for sure the families, right? So
Right.
if we want to break that down, we have the Wells, right? And then we have Lydia Quigley.
The Quigley.
And then Emily is starting her own exotic brothel, right? So we see those three family, or I call them families because they really are like families.
Yeah.
But the three brothels starting out. But what we're also seeing is William is starting a side business with the fighting, which was a new element.
Yeah.
But then you see little offshoots. So we're seeing the Fitzes, Lady and Lord Fitz, and Lady Fitz really trying to align with Charlotte,
Yes.
align with Nance, and you have 5 of them that all want to take Lydia down.
Yes.
So it's like, okay, there's going to be so much that's happening, but we just don't really know where it's all coming from, right? So I thought that was interesting.
And I think that somebody's going to end up playing both sides of the team.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, because it's like everyone seems like, oh, we're going to take Lady down. You know, she's evil. She's this and that.
Yeah.
But that's just too black and white for me. Like, I feel like their motivations may shift. And I don't know if Lydia's going to be so easy to take down as they think.
I mean, there's a lot of people after her. We'll see.
I know, so many.
We'll see. Let's move on to Margaret. And so when we opened up, we see Margaret and the lawman is kind of raiding her house. And I thought it was so funny how it was almost like she knew he was coming.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing going on there.
I know.
You had like some people praying, and then you had Nance recovering.
And she's like, this is a normal home. We
Yeah.
just run, no sins going on in here.
Yeah, which I thought was hilarious because she's like, yeah, I'm running basically a lodging for the needy and the sick. And he's like, well, I'm really curious what drives your concern. Right?
Yeah.
Like not believing her for 1 minute.
Yeah, it did seem like she kind of knew that he was going to be there, which made me wonder, like, did Violet, like, maybe tip her off or something? Because it did, I mean, what's the likelihood that, like, everyone would be praying and, like, being godly and there would be no kind of kinkiness going on?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. And I think that something else that was interesting about Margaret and her storyline in 3 and 4 is that she was basically starting again. Like she went and got a few new girls that are kind of test running. They looked and seemed like they didn't really know the business at all, like fresh faces.
Yeah, it's very fresh.
And so I thought her really trying to rebuild because of the losses that she's taken, but her house has a bad reputation right now.
Yeah.
So it's hard for her to find some girls.
Yeah, I thought it was great that she was focused on that, like rebuilding and not so much wallowing in the fact that her house kind of fell apart. And I really thought that montage where Violet was explaining how a woman even becomes a harlot was really interesting because it kind of gave the audience like that background and like how do these women end up in these situations? How does that process all go? And then seeing Margaret like dissect the girls and say like, oh, you have this, you gotta go, you have that. And then coming down, of course, to the final new girls. I just think it was really interesting to see exactly how that goes.
Now, what do you think about, so Harriet and Emily are at their house, and Harriet is kind of pushing back against Emily a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
You know what? Harriet and Emily are both feisty women, so I think that the dynamic between them, it's going to make sense. They're going to get a little push and pull going there. But I do think ultimately they are pretty loyal to each other so far. But yeah, they're both really feisty characters. I don't know. What did you think?
I think that I disagree with you a little bit. I think that Harriet's in it definitely for her children first and foremost. And I think that her pushing back when Emily was like, here, it's going to be 5 shillings. She's like, well, I'll give you 2 or whatever, was a little bit, to me, showing that she's really in it for herself. And I think that as soon as Emily brought in the second Black Harlot, she got really, really threatened.
Yeah.
And I feel like the second Black Harlot, I think that her name is Limehouse Nell. I think Limehouse Nell is actually going to be a lot more loyal to Emily than Harriet.
Yeah, I guess I could definitely see that happening, especially because we saw that the boxer was kind of saying like, hey, you know, let's just kick it. Forget the money. Like, I just kind of want to start seeing you. So I'm wondering what's going to happen there.
That's going to be in our news and predictions for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because she might end up, you know, saying, like, really, she doesn't really need, like, Emily to
maybe. We'll
make
see.
it happen.
Because she was like a madam or the lady of the house before her husband died, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah. She was like a wife.
Yeah, she's accustomed to a certain lifestyle. So we'll see.
Yeah.
What do you think of Charlie?
I don't know. What do you think? Let me tell you. Let's see what you think first.
Okay, so I think that Charlie, who is Lydia's son, is completely lazy. I think that he is going to bring Emily down. And in this episode 3 and 4, I just saw him do a lot of sleeping. Yes, he brought in the new girl, but that didn't really take much for him to do.
No.
And so he really has that I'm entitled vibe going on. And I'm wondering why he is like that. Like, I don't know where his character is going to be going. There he is. Yes.
Yeah.
Charlie.
Honestly, I really dislike Charlie as a character. But I mean, I see his purpose, of course, but I just hate how much of a mama's boy he is. And like you said, he seems very lazy. Like, he's not really putting in the effort. And he's so focused on, like, I'm going to get this inheritance. I'm going to get this inheritance. And I honestly think Emily just needs to, like, cut him loose.
I mean, I
don't think she needs him.
Right, because and we saw a little bit of a redemption with him where once he got a couple of the new girls, and so there's 4 of them, kind of. He was actually really excited because he could really see, like, the exotic vision. So maybe that will inspire him. We'll see.
Yeah, and that was kind of a good idea to kind of peg their house that way because it's nice to have a niche. So this kind of is what makes their house special and stand out amongst the other houses. But I'm still not really Team Charlie.
No. We'll see. We'll see. Let's move on to what we do here and how people can find us.
Okay, guys. So, in case you didn't know, our network produces after shows for nearly all your favorite TV shows, from dramas, reality TV, sci-fi, and more. There is no network that works harder to serve television fans. But we need your help. We're asking that you please subscribe to one or more of our YouTube channels. By subscribing to our channel, YouTube will suggest content that's tailor-made for you and will help AfterBuzz continue to grow. And if you're worried about those pesky notifications, don't, because they are optional. So hit that subscribe button now for this channel and check out our other AfterBuzz YouTube channels as well. Let us know you did so in the comments and we'll thank you on air. You'll definitely get a shout out here. For now, thanks for being the best fans and for helping us be the ESPN of TV Talk.
Yes!
Yeah, guys. Leave us the comments, questions, thoughts, likes. 5 stars, all that good stuff.
All the good stuff. And make sure you comment because we love hearing from you. Let's move on. So let's talk about Nance. So Nance is still on her recovery.
Right.
She decided that she was going to leave Margaret's and head home.
Yes.
Because again, we don't know a lot about her character, but we do know is that she likes to take care of herself.
She's very independent. Yeah, she... At first, I was a little surprised she wanted to leave so soon because she clearly was still injured and needed to rest. But like we were saying, she's very independent. I'm just curious where that comes from or why she feels like she can't depend on others when they're clearly there to support her and they want her, you know, to be okay. So for her to just be like, okay, I'm out of here, I'm leaving. I was like, Nance, come on, like stay, enjoy the bed, like recover.
I think that is a layer of her character that we're going to probably find out more about, which kind of leads me into the second quote that is going to be part of our quote of the shows. Nat says, "You're born alone, you die alone, and some of us like it that way in between."
Oh, gosh. All right, Nance.
So,
the solo life.
The solo life, perhaps, there's something there that we're going to find out later in the season.
Yeah.
So what do you think about Nance and Charlotte's relationship and how Charlotte always comes and checks on her, feeds her, and gave her a lot of really wise advice when it came to Lydia and what she should and shouldn't do and what she should be looking out for?
I love the dynamic, and I think it definitely makes sense because it seems as if Nance is kind of, Charlotte grew up with Nance there. Almost like, to me, it's almost, they have a dynamic that's almost like cousins, sort of, or maybe aunt and niece or something. And I think Charlotte is just in her nature to be very giving. And I don't know, I love Charlotte. Like, she's one of my favorite characters so far. So I kind of like them seeing the dynamic and Nance being more understanding about, like, what Charlotte's doing and kind of encouraging her to bring Lydia down. I really liked it.
Yeah, I mean, Nance definitely knows what Charlotte is doing.
Yeah.
And she's all for it. I thought that it was interesting that she wants to make sure that you don't let Lydia sliver into your soul. So she must really know how Lydia works and know how open, I guess, Charlotte is. Because you could see from the last few episodes that Charlotte is actually starting to care about Lydia a little bit. And so that was like a realigning of, okay, what's your focus? Why are you living with her? And what's your end goal?
Right. And I think I mentioned this our last show, that I had a feeling that Charlotte may be a little bit too open and she's going to start caring about Lydia in a way. And it's really going to throw her off on whether she wants to, like, go for the revenge or maybe end up being Lydia's girl. So I think that was great advice from Nance, because Charlotte's she's too nice.
She's nice, but I think she's also really smart. I think that she's playing the long game, like the chess game, rather than the checkers game. Let's talk a little bit about Lucy. So Lucy, we know, is, Margaret's other daughter.
Yes.
And her interaction with Lord Fallon. And so, first of all, what do you think of the interaction on the horse ride, as well as her decision to become his mistress?
I loved Lucy these 2 episodes. Even though I know she's in a dangerous situation, I love that she had control. So once she made the decision that she was going to be a kept woman, she really kind of did it her way. And that, when they were in the horse and carriage, she's like, I will not do anything over 400. That's it. And she was like, oh, that's what you think?
Right.
And she was able to kind of use her skills to get him to go a little bit higher and have him agree on her terms. And I think it was a different side of Lucy, because we used to seeing her, like, if you remember last season, like, she wasn't sure if she wanted to do this, more timid and shy and innocent. And then now we're kind of seeing this new side to her that's, like, feistier and demanding. And even the sword fighting they did was just very, like, erotically violent. I don't know. Like, it's just a weird side to her.
Yeah, Lord Fallon and Lucy, to me, have a very dangerous relationship. And I think that they've both come in with hidden agendas and are both power hungry and are both slightly violent, right? Because she did kill somebody, and he has also killed people or women as well. So you have this, like, weird dynamic that it all just seems dangerous. Every time I see them together, I think, ooh, something's about to happen.
Yeah.
So when I saw them do the sword fight or the fencing fight, I thought, oh, this is not good that you've taught her this, because now we've added another layer of just weapon dangery.
Yeah, and there's, like, I feel like they have so much chemistry, like violent sexual chemistry going on between them. And I do think that him teaching her how to fence is definitely going to come into play at some point. And I think, I don't know, they're bringing out this weird energy in each other. So I do love seeing Lucy more independent and, like, kind of making her own rules. I just hope she doesn't fall too far down the rabbit hole.
I mean,
with him. Yeah, I don't know.
And then let's talk about Violet and our justice, our lawman. So Violet seems to be kind of getting into the routine of being like a housemaid. You did see in 3 and 4 how she was, like, looking at her old life as she's walking down the streets and kind of being okay. Kind of being okay, because what she also is getting is that torrid love affair with the church girl.
With the daughter.
So I was like, okay, I see you, Violet. I see you. I'm not quite sure what's happening, but I see you.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that she called out the justice that was like, oh, we're going to shut down all the brothels and all the harlots. And she's like, Let me pour. You know, I thought of like that, the drinks tea, where you go like the drinks tea meme.
Yeah.
How she poured the soup on him, like, I'm just going to pour this soup on you real quick because you're talking nonsense. Didn't I just see you like 5 seconds ago?
Right. Having sex with a harlot and giving her pox.
Yeah, you're a hypocrite. You are a hypocrite.
Yeah, Violet was definitely on it these past 2 episodes. And it was interesting because she does seem to be settling into that role more and kind of feeling comfortable in a way. But then she also mentioned when she was explaining how a woman becomes a harlot, why she never was part of a brothel is because she wanted freedom. Mm-hmm. So I do think that element, the fact that she brought it up is still there. But I do think she's getting more comfortable with like the lifestyle. And then it's kind of like, she can live there and be more comfortable, and then she would be on the streets, and she still has her lover, and like she can still kind of call people out, like she did with the other justice. But she's also has some of the comfort she didn't have before. So I could see how it could be very enticing for her to kind of stick around. But I feel like when the justice finds out about the kinkiness and the love affair going on in his house, he's gonna freak out between Violet and the daughter. He's gonna freak out.
He's gonna freak out. I definitely agree with that. Let's talk a little bit about this whole pleasure garden.
Yeah.
Okay, so the pleasure garden, I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but I kind of did by the name. And then you have all the houses, right? So you have all the brothels at the pleasure garden, plus you have Lord and Lady Fitz.
Right.
And you have Mrs. May. So you have all the major players at this party. What did you think? And what did you think about Lord Fitz's fascination with Charlotte?
I thought the Pleasure Garden was exactly what I was expecting when I heard the name Pleasure Garden. And I'm very curious, maybe we could look into this for our next episode for Harlot History. Did they have a lot of these type of parties where they'd have brothel houses come and, prominent men there kind of fool around?
That's a great question.
I've got something on that if you guys are curious.
We are.
We are.
All right, so here's what I've got on pleasure gardens. They were real and spectacular. They were most famous during the 18th century, were Ranelagh Gardens and Vauxhall Gardens, just located right outside of London. They were open to the public and attracted everybody from the royal family to commoners and, yes, harlots. It was a place to be seen and to show off. So many aristocrats would go to keep up appearances and simply have fun. They would go see fireworks displays, musical performances, and acrobatic stunts. These gardens were open to all, and the upper class would go without being judged. As to there being sex in the open, that did happen, yes. People would have been able to find quiet pathways to get frisky or simply hide behind bushes.
Wow. Okay.
You know what? I'm actually fascinated that there were fireworks back then.
Yeah, that's interesting. Crazy. So it really was.
Jeff.
Thank you so much, Jeff. So like some erotic
garden party.
It's like a college hookup party, but in the 17th century.
Something like that.
Something like that. But getting back to Lord Fitz and his fascination with Charlotte, I think that all stems from something to do with his sister. I don't know what exactly the dynamics are, but I think it's like she said, anything that she wants or covets or whatever, he's gonna try to take.
Yeah, but they have a weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they talked about like family dynamics, and they have a weird family dynamics, but it's like whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And like we know that he controls her money and won't give it to her. And now the Charlotte thing, and I'm not sure how far he's willing to go because he wanted her to be his mistress.
Yeah. And did you see how he like kind of snatched her up from the table, and it was very rough.
This is mine.
Yeah.
Not yours.
Like she's literally property and not a human, and like this belongs to me. Like he stole her favorite toy or something.
Yeah.
And so clearly there's a backstory there on why this brother and sister have this kind of dynamic where they feel like the other can't. Well, the brother feels like his sister can't have anything.
Yeah.
Or anything that she wants, he has to have.
Yeah.
It's just
something's going on.
Yeah.
So that has to be revealed as well. I love that Margaret punched Lydia in the face.
Yes.
Like I laughed and laughed and laughed and laughed. And then what I thought was interesting too, because in the previous episodes, Margaret shunned Charlotte and said, like, you're no longer my daughter if you do this. But then she said, you know what? Take her down. It's almost like she knows, or she's finally realizing that Charlotte has a bigger plan.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that that's the case.
Yeah, and I was so happy to see. I loved Margaret's progression in this episode because it seemed like before, I feel like she can sometimes be too obsessed with like the past and getting Lydia and the revenge. And I feel like we saw her more focused on like rebuilding her house and, you know, checking in on her girls and just being more open to Charlotte, you know, kind of handling that.
Right.
As opposed to being like, if you're near her, I will never speak to you. I'm liking Margaret's progression. It just seems like she's making smarter choices.
And, you know, speaking of smarter choices, I think that you're absolutely right, because William just appeared. He came back.
Yeah.
And I thought that was beautiful.
He must have felt. He knew that she was like
Progressing. Making changes.
Right, being her best self. And he's like, I gotta come home. You're ready for me now.
But what I did want to talk about is that his side business. So he sees this guy who is a great fighter. He puts some money down on him and is kind of starting this betting ring. At this, it's not a brothel, it's like a bar almost, right? But what I thought was crazy, and I would love to hear your thought on it, is that he had a son with him this whole time, and seeing that violence and encouraging it, and then betting on it, and like just having your son sit there like it is an everyday thing. What did you think of that?
I personally would not have my son with me doing those things, of course, but it's also like, where would he? You know, what are his other options? To be with his mom at the brothel? You know,
I know. So, like, what are we doing here? The brothel or like violent street fighting? I don't know.
I mean, it's like clearly the times, and he's not in school, and he's not mandated to be. So sadly, it's pretty much his only choices. And I bet you William feels like he's really helping his son, because he's showing him how to run a business and how to be a quote unquote man, and all of that.
I mean, I guess so. I don't know. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch base on a little bit is how Lydia, she basically got like this gift from God.
Right?
The getaway card. So we had Emily willing to go and testify, and then you also had the church girl willing to go and testify. They go to the justice, they get the warrant, and they're all. But meanwhile, Lydia's met the main justice, the chief justice, at a card game, right? And he likes her.
Of course.
Right? So they barge in. I just couldn't believe. I was like, this is your Hail Mary. You did it. You didn't even know you were doing it. It's amazing.
I know. And it's like, no matter what, Lydia is always like 2 steps ahead.
2 steps ahead, like, 10 steps ahead.
That girl can plan, and like, she's just so good at kind of manipulating people almost to get what's best for her and like her house. And it was so interesting. I actually really loved that he looked at all the young, like voluptuous women, and he was like, actually, I like a woman a little riper. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's right.
Get it.
Yes.
Get it.
Older people need love too.
For real.
So I actually really liked it. And it's like Lydia's like the character I love to hate. Like I could see why people want to bring her down, but I also kind of love how she just kind of controls everything.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where we go from here, because there's just so many characters. But let's get into our Harlot of the Week.
Okay.
So I thought that the Harlot of the Week, which is one of our segments, was Cherry. And Cherry for being underestimated in the whole grand scheme of things. So we remember that she was on the streets and she wanted to actually work for Margaret's house. And Margaret's like, no, I'm not going to have you. And she was able to manipulate her way into Emily's house, right? And then not only did she manipulate her way into Emily's house, she's now starting to make strategic moves. So remember, we had Lydia want to use the other girl to spy.
Yeah.
Right, to be the inside spy. And what do we find her doing at the end of the show? On 4, she goes to Lydia and says, Emily is going to rat you out basically to the justice. I have your son's ear. I'm going to poison him against her. And obviously she's like planting herself to be the double agent. So, which is what you said, that there was going to be a double agent. I think it's going to be Cherry.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because you're right. Everyone was underestimating her. Like, oh, she's a dwarf. She's not important. She can't even be a harlot, let alone be a harlot that is smart enough to kind of play everybody. So I think that was very interesting to give her the role of the person that can kind of manipulate Lydia. And Charlie is very into her. And as we saw, he was pretty distraught when he saw Emily with a suitor and he walked in on them. So, I mean, it's definitely an avenue for her to kind of take over.
For all of those reasons, she is definitely the Harlot of the week.
Yeah, definitely.
And let's move on now to Harlot History. So there's a couple of things I found out doing some research for Harlot History. So harlot, the word, comes from the old French word harlot or arlot. And it's of an obscure origin. So it's either from the derivation of harjaz, meaning army or camp or warrior or military leader, which I think is interesting because those are all strong, powerful words.
Yeah.
But then what happened over time is that it turned derogatory and started to be used for female prostitution. So I thought that was interesting because how do you go from it being such like, a warrior to you're saying it's a derogatory word now?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like words are very interesting because they can always have multiple meanings.
Yep.
And I think eventually, a lot of times, the colloquial meaning of it kind of takes over what was the original term, and then all of a sudden, it's used in a totally different way. And I feel like there's so many words you could look at nowadays that have the exact same thing.
Idea.
Where it's like this actually means something completely different, but we're using it in an entirely different way.
So in the 18th century, another fact, prostitutes were regarded with mixed feelings. So usually they were born into poverty with little education or work skills, but they were rarely condemned because of that. So they were thought of as you're already starting from the bottom. We're not going to condemn this because you don't have a lot to begin with anyways. And for many 18th century prostitutes, their occupation was transitional, which I thought was interesting, meaning it was meant to economically tide them over during their hard times, so they either got married or found a proper job.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
I mean, you know what that reminds me of? Like the
Sugar daddy days?
Yeah, sugar daddy days. Or like the women that, are stripping to pay for college, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm doing this now so I can get this degree and do something else.
Man, it's like how things have not changed.
Yeah, not at all.
So I wanted to pull up a couple of photos from those times, the 18th century. So this first photo is, the caption says, "We see you now waiting in full dress for an instruction to a fine gentleman with a world of money." Which fits into everything that we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
So the harlots and the money and the sugar daddies in 2018, things. What's changed? Really, what's changed?
Nothing.
And then she said nothing. And then the second picture, your first step for preferential will be to a great lady in King's Place. And I just thought that was interesting too, about just powerful men helping the distressed woman. So yeah, that is our harlot history.
Yeah, you guys, like a nice little, we're going to educate and entertain on this show. We're doing it both.
We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it all. Let's learn and be entertained.
Yeah.
Why not? I wanted to also do some fan shout outs. We had some really, really great fans comment in our sections on YouTube, and you guys, we read them, so keep the comments coming.
Yes.
But I wanted to shout out Marchetta James for breaking down the meaning of coins on the eyes of the dead. So she explained it in the comments, and if you guys want to know a little bit more or see what she said, definitely check out our last week's episode because she really broke it down. So shout out to Marchetta. And to Jessica Baptiste for her magistrate theory. So she really thinks that Violet and the law guy are going to get together, which is what we think as well.
Yes.
And then shout out to the Poplin Paradise for watching. She just said that she stumbled across this after show. She was hoping there was going to be one because there wasn't one last season. So thank you for watching, and we look forward to just interacting with you week by week.
Yes, definitely appreciate it.
Let's now get into some predictions.
Nice.
And now, your AFTERBUZZ TV predictions.
All right, you start.
Okay, so predictions. I think, and we didn't actually mention this, But I think we're going to see Lady Fitz's love child or like meet them at some point.
Yes.
Because now we know what the big secret is.
Yes.
There's a love child, but we don't know where the love child is or what's going on or who the daddy is. So I think that's all going to come out eventually. And either Lydia's takedown of her or her takedown of Lydia is going to come out. I think Lucy is going to be able to manipulate the Lord. And I know he eventually has, like, he wants to take down Margaret through Lucy, but I think she's going to be one step ahead of him. Maybe because I just love her and I think she's, like, really smart. So I'm hoping that she won't get too caught up in that situation and she'll kind of see it for what it is and be able to take him down as opposed to him taking her down.
Ooh, I love those. I love those. Okay, I think that Fanny is going to snap and kill the Lord that killed Kitty.
Okay, I'm here for it.
I think that the houses, Emily and Margaret, are going to band together to take Lydia down. And then I also think that it's going to be even more difficult to take her down because she now has the Chief Justice who's obviously corruptible on her team. So I think that there's going to be, it's going to be like Hunger Games almost.
Yes, right?
You know, but in the 18th century. So those are my predictions. Guys, what do you guys think? If you have any news or gossip that you want to share with us, I'm Linda So Girly all across social media. Hit me up in the comments. Hit me up on social media, and I'm sure to get back to you.
Yeah, guys, hit us up. I'm Mariel Turner. You can find me at Mariel_Turner and all social media.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.